Hi guys, Nige back here again with another inbox review, and today we're going to be looking at Eduard's Trophy Pack edition of the F4F-3 Wildcat. So this is a relatively new release. Yes, I'm a little bit late to the party with this one, but nonetheless, I've just got my grubby little fingers on this one, and I thought I'd give you my thoughts on it. So without further ado, let's go into the overhead and we can crack on. So as normal with Eduard Trophy Pack, you get a glossy manual with quite a few different options in there. So you've got a little bit of a write-up about the Wildcat and when it was introduced. Before we move straight on to the sprue map, so all the parts that you'll need and won't need. So you've got your plastic, you've got your photo etch, and you've got your master as well. We then have our colour call out in aqueous and Mr. Colour paints, as well as mission model paints. Before we then move straight on to the actual kit itself. So you can see we move straight on looking at the bulkhead and the cockpit area with the seats. And be aware guys, we have to make sure that we pick the right one. So on these, as you can see, it's got the question mark at the side, so whichever one you want to fit and install, whether you want to use the plastic parts or the photo etch parts, and again, that choice is up to you. So as we're moving down, you can see where the red here is the parts where we remove for the photo etch to go on there, and it'll tell you where to put them, and it'll tell you which photo etch to put down for whichever markings you require. So as you can see, PE25 is for marking A only. So you have to make sure, what I always do, I always go through and I'll highlight the actual one I'm doing. Again, still in the actual cockpit area, so you can see we've got pre-war and early variants, and then late variants all going together before we then start looking at the mounting the different parts for the engine. So you know, I can't remember what they're for, but there's a framing for the engines to go on, the undercarriage parts there, so the chains for lowering and the undercarriage. Moving on again to put in the different parts in for the engine before we then move on to the fuselage. So that'll be on the inside of the fuselage where we have to put parts, and you see it's got the colour codes there. Same on this bit, and you can see we've got a photo etch bit for the map pocket. Before we then close up the two fuselages parts with the engine mounting part there and the cockpit. Moving on to building the actual main undercarriage, and you can see it's actually quite a robust bit of equipment. Okay, so you've got the main legs, and then you've got some strengthening bars that go on there because the wheels actually fold up into the belly of the aircraft. Then look at the masking, the canopy and the wheels. Some parts here for the main wheel bay. Some covers, it just covers the fuselage and not necessarily the actual part there. Building the wings and the control surfaces. I don't know whether this will be able to be built with the flaps up or down, but that's something we cross when we come to it. Building the engine with the ignition harness, I think it is, or whatever on there, and then coming together and building the actual cowling rings and the cowling. So it's very reminiscent of the Hellcat. Then fetch all these parts together, so wings, engine, cowling, tails, building the actual tail surfaces. So the tail, as you can see, is made up with two parts. We have, for markings A again, probably an aiming tube. before we then fetch the propellers together, and how we want the canopy open or closed, and all the little bits and pieces going round. So I don't know, but we have got some underwing pylons, but I have not seen any bombs as such, so we might not get any bombs in that, just the attachment parts, bombs or drop tanks. So moving into the actual markings, so we've got A from Lieutenant Charles Shields from USS Ranger, December 1940, so a year before the Americans entered the war. We then got November 1941 from the Army Navy Maneuvers in Louisiana. Then we've got Lieutenant Edward H. O'Hare from the USS Lexington in the Hawaiian Islands, April 1942. So you can see we're starting to seal the mid-war American roundels. Again, December 1941, Wake Island from Captain T. Elrod. Then May 1942, with the bigger roundels on, with them covering up the small one, which you can see just there. And then on to the Midway Island from Captain John F. Cairney. Okay, June 1942, with the a little bit later war roundels. So let's have a look at all the plastic. So bear with me, and we'll get this lot open. So we start off with Sprue E, and straight off you can see it's Eduard detail all through. Some lovely routing and panel lines all the way over both the lower wing and the upper wing. So some really nice detail there. Then we've got the fuselage. As you can see, it's not a very big aircraft, but again, it's got some nice recess rivet and some raised rivets. So around the front here we have raised rivets, and at the rear we have recess rivets, apart from that area there. So some really nice detail there. Turn it over. Inside the fuselage, not much to write home about, but that'll all be added with the actual cockpit. So another 3 sprues in this bag. So starting with the cowling and the engine. Okay, so we have 2 types of cowling, probably for different aircraft, and again 3 different types of actual cowling. Oh sorry, we've got 3 different types of cowling. So we've got 1, 2, 3. Okay, and again 3 different types go on the back of that. The engine looks really nice. Again what I expect from Eduard. And the instrument panel, sidewall panels for the instruments, another one there, and again that bit in the front or just behind the engine, and then the engine parts just there as well. Okay, so some really cool detail all over that sprue. Next up, we have got some control surfaces. So we have the tails. So we've got the 2 different types, one that's quite narrow and one that's quite wide, and again it's got some lovely raised detail, so that will be picked out really well. And this will, I believe it's all fabric, so you can go to town with weathering all that on both parts. Again, some control surface for the wings, same sort of detail as on the tails. Before we move in some of the smaller bits, we have some of the machine guns there, and you're not going to be able to see this, but those machine guns are all drilled out. Okay, you're not going to be able to see that, but they are all drilled out with such a fine little hole in there. We then have 2 drop tanks, though I didn't see those going attached to the aircraft. We've got some small bombs as well, but again, in this marking, I don't think they're attached. So we've got the 2 halves, one over there and one there with the detonator on there. That looks like the 2 different types of tail wheel frame. We're going to have to be really careful removing these frames. Then on to the bulkhead for the wings and wheels, cockpit floor. Again, some of the parts are going to be super delicate. Okay, so we're going to have to be really careful taking them off. The chain part for the undercarriage, lowering and hiring. So some really nice detail all around. One wheel, one piece wheels, though there's no weight on wheel, but I don't know how much weight there would be with this aircraft, because obviously it's a really tiny aircraft. And some lovely detail again going into that seat. So some nice detail all throughout. We then have the clear parts. So we have open and close parts, that sighting tube I talked about. Again, even on the clear parts, you can see some really nice detail on there. And they are super crystal clear. We're hardly any distortion. We also get a extra page, so if they have made done something not quite right, okay, they've put this part in. So for the frame and the undercarriage, so page 4, page 6, page 8 and page 9. Then move into the mast set. Okay, so I'm not going to get that out. That's just a normal Eduard mast set. The fault which we can see just through this, hopefully, if it's right, holding the right sort of light. Some different instrument panel parts. We've got seat belts, some grills, and all that sort of good stuff. And then on to the decals. So these are going to be the new type, if I can get them out of the packaging, the new type of Eduard decals, which not a lot of people are enamored with. I've not really used them as yet. I've used them on I've only used a few. Okay, so what I will say, they are super thin. Okay, and they have got the carrier film a lot closer to the edge than some I've seen in the past. You can just see that carrier film there, though it's still a lot more than what I would expect. But again, they say they're not meant to be peeled off, but that's what happens. And then we've got the colours of them. Now, I don't know whether this is true or not, but you can see there's 2 different colours there for the roundels. So did they change the colour? or are they meant to be two different colours? I am not 100% certain. But these ones, you can even see this one here, look. See that cross there? The carrier film runs into this part here, look. So you've got your carrier film conditioning just there, look. So you're going to have to be extra careful with that part, otherwise you might take them off as one. And the carrier film is actually quite big on some of these, so if you don't use them, you'd have to probably bed these in quite well. Again, I have not used these, other people have, so it depends on what you use to actually do it. Okay, but I think I need to experiment with these decals in a future video maybe. So that's Eduard's F4 Wildcat. Now the kit itself looks absolutely fantastic. Really nice detail all throughout. What lets it down again potentially is the decals. Now these decals, some of these are really big, so you're going to have to make sure they bed down properly before you then try and peel that carrier film off. Now yes, you can use these as a normal decal, but what I found with the few that I have used is that they release from the backing paper really quickly. So the ones like that long thin bit there, you might have problems with that. It might come straight off the backing paper and then you're all at sea. Again, same with some of them. The actual carrier film runs into the carrier film of some of the other decals, so you have to be really careful when it comes to do that. But if you want a really nice F4, this is one for you. It's absolutely brilliant, really nice kit, and I can see it building up into a beautiful kit, and I have seen some of these built up and they look fantastic. Anyway, that's it for now. I will see you on the next one. Bye.